This is Art 154, Lecture 3. Just to review a couple things, I'm going to go on and create a basic box just to talk about a couple issues. Now that I have it made, if I go and multiply, I can increase the number of segments. That direction, we want to do it, and there we go. Right now you can't see it in this view. I hit G to get rid of that. And you have to choose realistic and edge faces. I'm going to change the color so you can see this a little bit better. And there you go. You can see that we actually have some lines in there. So next thing we want to do is we want to change the shape. So if we want to get this as a curve, let's increase the segments to 5. Okay, and if we do a poly and come in and go into vertex mode, I can come in and grab those. This is in the front view, and move that up, and then border select those and pull it up as well, and I get a curve type shape. So that's how we make a curve, and we've talked about this before, but just to review. Now let me make a second box. Create box, second box. And this time I'm going to have no segments on it all. Let me just maximize this so we can kind of see what's going on. So I'll change the color. Let's try blue. And zero this out, or set it to 1. Okay, now if we want to change the edge, when you render something and you look at it, the edge is hard, and that's how people know that something's computer generated. And if you have a highlight that goes along the edge called the specular highlight, it makes things look better. So I'll add an edit poly modifier onto this, and I'll do edge, and I'll do Control A to select all the edges. And then I come down and find chamfer and open it up, and you can adjust it. You don't want to do it too far because it starts to go inside out, and you want it to be pretty subtle, and you want to try to do it proportionally. So if you have a big piece, it might be different than another one. Then you just hit check mark and do apply. And now if you render this out, you'll see that there's this highlight right there, and it just softens it, especially on the wood. Now if I get out of this edit poly mode, and I go back to this object, and I do Control A, and select all the edges, now I have an issue. And it'll be more obvious when I do the chamfer. You'll see all of a sudden I'm adding geometry all over the place. So in order to get something to do the similar effect here, you have to actually select all the faces of the section, and then come in and actually choose bevel, which is extrude, which is pulling something off, so that's the extrusion part, and the scaling, which is called the outline. So if you pull that in and you adjust the height, you've basically added a little edge around the object. And now if I hit OK, it's a little extreme, but you can see the idea. Now we have an edge around, a broken edge around that object. So you would do the same thing for the face, the top, and go around and do it. So that kind of gives you an idea of 2 different ways to do that. So let's move on to actually looking at and you want to do this with your furniture, just make sure before you do it that you save a copy, because it's really hard to clean this stuff up and adjust sizes and dimensions once the chamfer is done. So let's go new file, save changes, no. I'm going to do a reset, make sure everything's the same size so you can follow along. And I'm going to make a room. So if you're going to make a room, you usually want to start with a box. Every room's going to basically a box. And then let's kind of hone in the dimensions a little. And I'll change this to world so the widget doesn't pop around all over the place. And as far as the height, I could increase and decrease the height. The thing to remember is usually the height of the room is less than the width and the depth. And actually I'm going to increase the width just a little. Now before we do anything, there's no divisions that are currently in this or segments. So what I'll do is I'll add an edit poly modifier, and I will, let's go back here. Actually want to increase the segments, so I'll do 3 in every direction, and make sure where it says realistic, right click and choose edge face so I can see it. And now you see I have my basic box with the subdivisions. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a window in one of these and a door in the other, but the positioning right now doesn't work. So I will come in and go up to Edit Poly and select, this is in the front view, those items, and for the door I want to make it a little skinnier. And then I can border select all of those and come and move them and watch what's happening in this view where I basically selected everything. And I'll put the door kind of in the left corner. Now for the window right now is a little, needs to be higher, and also the door frame. So I'll grab this upper row and pull that up. Let me just get rid of the grids real quick. Okay, so we have the upper row, so that's a little bit more realistic. And if we wanted, let's make the window a little skinnier. So we'll come and we'll pull that in. And I would say that that's good for the time being, and you have something set up. The other thing you can do at this point, and I'm not going to do it with this model, but just to kind of show you the basics, is you can also use extrude at this point. And you could come in and you can select a group of items. Like let's say I want to make a hallway or a detail off of this part. Select it, and then you can use extrude, and you can pull it off. And you can see how if I do OK, and then you can start to add different increments. So even if you start a box, you can start to pull different items off using extrude to enhance and build your space. Okay, so if we want to see what's actually going on within this, and this is next issue, or an issue that's coming up, if I select this one item and I delete it, now you can actually see inside of this, and that's called backface calling. By default, your object isn't going to have that. By default, what will happen with your object if you go to object property is if you disable backface calling, and I do the same thing, and I delete it, you'll see that it basically implies that there's a double-sided polygon in there, but that doesn't exist. And the reason why we don't want to use do the work with backface calling off is when you go to render it, it's there. So this is basically the computer lying about what's actually there. So to do object properties, select the whole object, and then basically turn on backface call will help you out. Also in the instruction, there's a way you can go into the preferences and you can set it up so whenever you make objects, they're automatically set up that way. Now, if I wanted to fix this for some reason, now that I've made this hole, I can select the top and the bottom edges. Let me blow this up a little so you can see what I'm doing. And I can come in and I can basically say bridge. And no, I grabbed the wrong. I want this and that edge. Okay, now let's do bridge. There you go. And you can fix it. You can also select, let's go back into select mode. Also, let's say for some reason I blasted out those two pieces. I can actually select the whole shape, but you'll see that I have, if I go to fix it, which is called cap, you'll see that the problem is we're missing that section, so I have to actually select this one, do connect, or bridge, and that one, and do it. Because right now that segment's missing, which isn't a major problem, but just something to be aware of. Okay, so let's get out of stop that, edit mode, and now we're ready to start to do some stuff with the faces. And what we want to do is we want to detach this. Now we have everything positioned if you want to do extrusion, so I'm going to grab the top. And if I go to the bottom of the selection, there's row, so as long as you grab the middle. And now what we want to do is we want to detach this. So I'll zoom down, and you want to hit the box to right of detach, and it's going to ask you what you want to do. Now detaching is going to basically separate these pieces so it's its own. Now if we do it in the element, it's still part of the object. If we do it as a clone, then it's still there, and we actually want to just detach it. So we're going to call this ceiling and hit OK. And you'll see that it's not selected anymore or highlighted, and that's because it's actually a new object. So if I go in and select, go out of edit mode, and I got it, you see here's the ceiling, and let's give it a gray color. And now you can see that basically I have the ceiling, and if I actually wanted to be able to, if I grab this and move it, you'll see now that you can see inside the room or the box. The other thing I can do with this, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is because I want the ceiling to actually be visible from inside, not outside, I would flip it. And now if I zoom in and go and I look up, let's go in, you can see there's the ceiling inside the box, even though the other items aren't flipped. So that's kind of a handy thing to do. So we'll continue, so we'll go back to the box. And I usually like to change the colors of each one as well. So I'll have to go out of that mode, go back and select the box, and then I'll select one part, and I'll hit grow, and now we can do a detach with that as well. And this I'll call front wall, and then I'll come over and that's shifted. So if you see something move, be careful because that can cause some issues down the road. Grow, and we'll detach this one as well. We'll call left wall. Okay, let's go around and look at the other ones. Here's the back. Go up and do grow again. I'm actually going to go back down to detach. And this is right wall. And then finally you want to do the back one. And grow that as well. And detach that. And call that back wall. Okay. So now the only thing we have left at this point is the floor, or what we're going to call the floor. So we can rename the box 1 floor, and we can select the bottom. I can just do Control A, and then we want to flip it because remember we only have one size. So let's go find flip right there, and now we can see through the floor, and that's it. So this the floor's different color. I'll give it red. Okay, and now let's go through and start selecting these different walls and flipping them as well. So I'll give front wall, I can just select the whole item using this object and just hit flip, get out of that mode, and I can also change the color if I want. Do the same thing, grab this one and then flip, get out of the mode, and come around, and just be aware that you have to select the face that you see. So if I go through here, I select that one even though I'm clicking here. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, and that's why I usually save the flipping till the very end when I'm working with the box, because it's pretty annoying to work with it otherwise. Okay, so now you can see we have this box and we can see inside of it. I'll have the grid there as well. Just do a quick save. Save as 02. Okay, and we have that saved. So let's see, what do we want to do next? We want to hide. I'm going to come in and start to hide some of these items. Now I can manually select everything, but it's easier just to open up Layer Manager. And if I select everything here, Control A, I can create a new layer. And I'll call this room, or I'll call this walls. Okay, so now I have a new layer called walls. And if I go into this layer, you see back, right, left, front, ceiling, floor. Now the front wall we don't need at all, and the left wall. And so we kind of have what I call a set. We have the top and the bottom. It's just the stuff that we see. We'll build the door here and the window right there, and that's some molding and other detailing. Now the other items we want to freeze so we don't accidentally select them. So if I select the floor and I do freeze, what happens? It turns white, or they call gray, which is kind of annoying. So if we select all these items and we do object properties, by default show frozen in gray, we can turn that off. And now if we go to lock all of these, lock them, you see that they don't turn white at this point.